Hello again you guys, it's Carly from the Poetry of Nice and welcome back to another weekly reseller comment roundup. If you're new to this channel, I make videos all about reselling online. I currently sell on Etsy, eBay and Poshmark, and I do it while being a stay-at-home, work-at-home, whatever you want to call it, mom to 3 boys, 5 and under. On this channel you're going to find everything from haul videos to sales videos to how-tos, tips, tutorials, day in the life and all kinds of cool stuff in between. So if that sounds interesting to you, please do think about hitting that subscribe button down below and don't forget to say hello in the comments so that I can say hi back. Alright, we're going to crack on with the comments again. So this one is from Helen Colwell and it's a big old comment, but I'm going to pick out the part that actually has the question in it. It says, this is a mistake you brought up tonight that I need clarification. It was mistake number 3 and I think that was in my Poshmark, like 10 Poshmark mistakes that you might be making, which I'll link just in case that anybody wants to watch that. Says, in mistake number 3 you said we need to cross list. I don't understand that at all and I thought it best to ask you what you meant. Are you talking about listing our items on eBay and the same time that they're listed on Poshmark? And then goes on to say there's some concerns that what happens if someone buys it at the exact same time. What a good question, you're absolutely right. So I do talk about cross-posting a lot because that is what I choose to do. I personally list on eBay, Poshmark and Etsy, which I think I mentioned at the beginning of the video, and I do list the same items on all 3 platforms, even if I only have one of them. I do this because I feel like there are different audiences and different demographics on all of the different platforms, and I'm forever surprised by what items move on each platform. There's almost nothing out there, whether it be a vintage item or a more mature piece or a very like high-end piece or a very on-trend piece, that doesn't necessarily sell on one or the other platforms. Now Etsy is the only one that I'm limited in terms of I can list only vintage items. They have to be 20 years or older, but on eBay and Poshmark, as long as it's clothing or accessories, I can list to my heart's content on both. I don't worry anymore, touch wood, that items are going to sell at the same time and I'm going to end up having to cancel an order and things like that. I've been doing it for years now and that hasn't happened yet, but I do have some plans in place to kind of ensure that that doesn't happen. Literally, as soon as I sell an item on one platform or the other, I stop what I'm doing and I take it down off of the other platform. Obviously, if I'm driving or something, I'm not going to pull over the car and do it, but for the most part, I just kind of pause. It takes just a couple of seconds to go in and delete that listing on eBay, and I do delete it completely to make sure that it doesn't end up going back up accidentally with a relist or a sell similar. So I do delete completely on eBay. Poshmark, I just move it to not for sale. I do that because I like to keep a record of the items that I can see sold on eBay instead. That's interesting for me to know where exactly it moved. And I also do it so that if it is returned on eBay or something like that, I can go ahead and relist it on both platforms really, really easily. Same goes for Etsy. If I sell a vintage item on Poshmark or eBay, I just go into Etsy and I go ahead and deactivate the item so that it is not for sale in that store anymore either. I hope that helped answer your question. I know that that's like not a lot of information, but I did want to clarify for you that yes, that is how I cross post. I do put the same one item up on all of those platforms and I just make sure I'm really, really stringent when it comes to removing them the moment that they sell. And I haven't had any issues, and I personally don't get anxious about it anymore because I've been doing it for so long, and the chances that that one item is going to sell immediately on 2 platforms is very, very, very slim, but it's worth saying it's the risk you're taking, just so you know. Okay, so next comment. Thanks for the video. When listing vintage, do you list under vintage for brand? This is on Poshmark. Or do you list under the respective brand? If so, have you noticed a difference in attention to the item? What a good question again. Okay, so yes, I do sell a lot of vintage on Poshmark, and for the most part, I do select vintage as the brand. A lot of the vintage I sell is no name brands in terms of nobody would know what it was, and so the chances that they would ever be searching for that one specific random brand from the 80s are very, very, very slim. However, the chances that they would be searching for an 80s vintage item is probably higher, right? So I go ahead and put vintage as my brand. I feel like it's kind of all-inclusive, and I feel like it's making it a lot clearer to my buyer that it is a vintage item as well. And then I will say that if I have an item that is a sort of standout name brand, I'm thinking like I've sold some Christian Dior, like vintage sweaters. I've sold vintage Tommy Hilfiger, things like that where somebody could be actually looking for it by brand, and whether it's vintage or not, I would definitely err on the side of putting the actual brand name in there. That is sort of my selection process when it comes to selecting the brand on the Poshmark listing. When it comes to eBay, I list it by brand no matter what. I just put the sort of no-name brand typed out in there, but I always have the word vintage in my title. Usually in Poshmark I have vintage in my title as well, but those characters are a little more limited, so sometimes I just can't squeeze it in, and the vintage as the brand name will help me to explain to my buyers and to my potential audience exactly what it is that they are looking at. Next comment from Jersey Girl. My biggest mistake is taking way too much time with dressing a dress form and or laying clothing out on a flat surface. I now only hang items on a plain wall, no distracting props. I find it gives my closet a clean and fresh look. That is good. Absolutely, I completely agree with you. So we all sort of have a lot of trial and error when it comes to photographs. I know I mentioned in the Posh biggest mistakes video that I just did that photos were one of those things that most people, you know, can struggle with from the beginning. And I know that I personally definitely had a hard time with it. I started hanging my photos on doors, which is not always the worst thing, I understand, but the way I did it was not good. There was no lighting or anything like that, no thought for it whatsoever. Or I sometimes laid the clothes on the kitchen floor. Like it was a rough start, put it that way. And now that I have a process in place that is very, very simplified, I feel much happier, and my listing process is much more streamlined too. I mentioned before, but I personally paint a white wall in my garage, like a certain section of it just stark white, and I have a nail in the wall where I can hang garments on a hanger. I also have a dress form that I found for $5 at a yard sale. I got very lucky with her, and I use that for my garments as well. I find that helps a lot just to show the actual fit and shape and things like that of my items. It does not take me long to dress it. It doesn't have arms. I don't have to take anything apart. I literally just slip it over the dress form. It's very, very simple and streamlined still. And then I do have a flat lay. The one I have is like a faux wood, so it's kind of like a whitish color, so it still goes with that white background. I feel like it looks very consistent and like organic within the aesthetic of my closet. That's linked down below, I think, in my Amazon links in case you want to see exactly what I'm talking about. But I do that, and I personally have like a little signboard that I spell out my business name, and I have like a little faux succulent that I can put in my photos. I do that again purely for the aesthetic and make it a very consistent look within my closet. I also do it because I can spot my own listings really, really easily in terms of if anyone ever pinched my photos or anything like that. And also just because I like it, and we might as well have joy from what we're doing, right? But I do like what she's saying there. The main point being, keep it simple. There is no need to go over the top with a big, you know, hanging. But I mean, you can do whatever you want, don't get me wrong, but I mean, you don't have to do that. You don't have to invest a lot of money in making your photos stand out. Often just keeping them clean, keeping the focus on the item, and keeping them consistent is more than enough to give your closet a really professional look and to attract buyers. All right, next comment from Candice Glasgow. You can buy pretty poly mailers on eBay for the same price as regular white ones, just FYI. Thank you for that tip. So I've only ever bought the pretty poly mailers from Amazon, and I know you can buy actually the plain white ones, I think, as well for the same price or less on Amazon too, I believe. When I talk about the poly mailers that I use and the fact that I use like the really plain ones and stuff, I actually use my coupon for my eBay store. So when you have an eBay store of a certain level, you get every quarter you get a coupon essentially, which is, I think for me, I think I have a premium store, I should know that, but I get a $50 coupon essentially every quarter where I can spend that money on shipping supplies. So I buy the eBay branded poly mailers with that coupon so that I don't have any cost like out of pocket necessarily for poly mailers, and I actually find that they last me for most of the quarter. So what I do when it comes to using those eBay branded poly mailers for Poshmark, it's not for everyone, so brace yourself. They're always priority on Poshmark, so I have priority mail stickers that you can get for free from the post office or ordered online from USPS, and I take 2 stickers and I stick one over the eBay logo on the back of the poly mailer, and then I flip it over over and I stick another sticker on top of the eBay like logo on the front, and then I put a thank you sticker on and I put my shipping label on, and unless you were an eBay seller, chances are you are none the wiser that it was ever an eBay branded poly mailer. I do that because it's a way to sort of be frugal and save some money within my business, and also because I have those for free. I don't really want to be sort of wasteful, I suppose, by purchasing too many, and the prints are so beautiful, and absolutely it is such a nice experience for a buyer to get a pretty poly mailer through the mail, but it does tend to go in the trash can afterwards, so I'm not too worried about reusing those eBay poly mailers for other needs. Alright you guys, I hope that that was helpful in some way to somebody. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed yet, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button down below, and don't forget to say hello in the comments if you're new, or if you are back again, say hello, because I love to say hi to you guys every single time that you guys comment. And if you have any questions or tips, don't forget to throw those down below as well. And I will talk to you in the next video. Bye you guys, have a wonderful week.